So there's a campaign called NODAPL, which is calling on, people and corporations to divest their funds.
DC reinvest!
DC reinvest!
Kill the pipeline, save the land!
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 We stand with Standing Rock!
We stand with Standing Rock!
Hi, this is C with Truth Against the Machine, and I am outside of the Wells Fargo here in Washington, D.C.
So I'm here at Wells Fargo right now, right next to the White House, because this is our big event kickoff for the DC Reinvest campaign to get the city of Washington, D.C. to cut its ties with Wells Fargo.
DC Reinvest is an effort by a number of local organizations coming together around Indigenous solidarity and really wanting to lift up the plight of Indigenous folks here in America. And really seeing the way that these banks and Wells Fargo in particular are investing in projects that are really hurting these communities, really causing all the stuff that's happening in Standing Rock and all over other pipelines around the country as well.
And with all of them, we're trying to move towards actually having a socially responsible investment policy for the city overall, so that it goes beyond Wells Fargo, because they're not the only bank that they're not the only bank that are partaking in these practices. So that's who we're targeting right now. But eventually, we want to get all the city's money, not to be a part of these destructive tendencies that these big banks are putting forward.
Wells Fargo is a small, local, community-focused bank.
In some cases, their money was transferred to a different account without their permission. Now, I don't think that happened for everyone, but it was something that happened. Some people have had their credit scores impacted because there was a credit card opened.
When they signed up, they were promised a toaster that they did not get.
There are also instances, though, where employees just kind of opened these fake accounts that were in their name and their email address to Wells Fargo.
Totally unaware of these illegal practices.
This is a movement that's growing, and more people are taking a stand and divesting, as well as corporations and banks pulling out and cities taking a stand. But right now, it's to get, to not fund the Dakota Access Pipeline anymore.
This consortium of banks, Wells Fargo being one of them, that has invested in the pipelines that has ignited protests all across the country.
So right now, for people, personal investments, it's almost at $70 million that's been divested from the Dakota Access Pipeline by pulling their money out from Citibank, Wells Fargo, SunTrust, all of these other major funders to the pipeline. And then I think corporate, it's around $4 billion that's been divested total. So we're trying to keep that number going up and find a way to kill the black snake.
This effort that we're doing is about Standing Rock, and it's also about indigenous communities all over America. And there are pipelines in Florida, there are pipelines in Arizona. These battles are happening all over the country, all over Canada. Like, this is not a new thing. This is not something that just started happening last year. We're very grateful, or I personally am very grateful to the Standing Rock Sioux for, and particularly like the youth and the International Indigenous Youth Council for really elevating this effort and really kind of bringing this more into the public conscious. But this is, this battle has been going on continuously for 500 years. Pretty much without a break.
I organize with Showing Up for Racial Justice, the DC chapter, SURGE. And SURGE is an organization that's organizing white folks to dismantle white supremacy. And we do that through many different things. So
maybe I'll sneak in the back door.
Yeah.
It's a bad joke.
Currently, Washington, D.C. has about $2 billion invested into Wells Fargo.
In long-term investments, we also have payroll services and things like that that Wells Fargo is providing to the city right now. I believe the payments for that are to the tune of $13 million over a couple of years, something like that.
So a bunch of local organizers, people from 350 D.C., SURGE, Sierra Club, and then my coalition, Rising Hearts Coalition, which I founded on February 21st, are all coming together to lead this effort to have our nation's capital take a stand against environmental injustices and to cut its ties to Wells Fargo.
A number of other local groups here in the city, Black Lives Matter has done some work. We've got the Democratic Socialists of America, or DSA, that are here, and a number of other groups that have been involved.
We're getting our own network to attack this network. So fire with fire.
We have 2 people that are going to be going in maybe within 10 minutes to close their bank accounts and have personal divestment.
The beauty about this action is that it's taking all of that momentum and all of that energy and all of the rallying and all the protests and all the attention to wake people up and actually doing something.
So we have Kate and Bettina who are going to go in and close their accounts. Our first 2 divestors in the campaign. They've just been in Wells Fargo and closed their accounts.
So to see you actually divest it's inspiring for a lot of people. Now, was this a difficult decision for you to do? Are you firmly tied into Wells Fargo right now?
Sure. Yeah, I'm super glad you asked that question because once I actually considered the decision, it was a very easy decision to make. I even consulted my parents and some friends who work in finance about the decision because I have figured that there is a reason to stay with a big bank as opposed to go to a smaller credit union or a community development financing institution. But when I actually looked into it, it actually is a better move for me financially, and the money goes to work in DC in a good way.
Well, I mean, the best things in life should be a win-win, right? And the worst things in life are win-win for only the company and someone else other than the people.
It was easy for me to open up a new account, and it'll be pretty simple, with the technology we have these days to just wire the money over. So, no, it wasn't too complicated for me. It was very
I mean, that's great to hear, though, that it puts the pressure, puts the fire under people who don't want to go through a whole convoluted process, even if they're on the right side of history. Yeah. So to hear that it's easy, it's like, what are you waiting for?
So I think a lot of the time it's just that people don't know where to move the money to, because people might not have a credit union or an easy alternative. So I really appreciated the DC Reinvest campaign because they offered me help in finding that alternative.
This is the first time that we're doing this for this campaign. We're really excited about it. We're expecting to have many more actions like this in the coming days and weeks. And we think this is a great momentum builder as we have a resolution that's going to be introduced at City Council tomorrow for the city of Divest.
Tomorrow, the biggest piece is that we have a resolution that's going forth for City Council, the City Council of DC. It's being introduced at a hearing at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. And basically that resolution is calling on the city to divest the money that the city government has in Wells Fargo.
Are there any faces of these organizations that we really need to put pressure on to encourage them to get this action through?
Yeah, I think the biggest one for this is the DC City Council, and so folks that are here locally in DC, certainly, the council member for your ward, finding out who that is.
Really impressive. Thank you so much for everything that you're doing, and we'll be there tomorrow to follow up on this action, and we'll be there for all the actions after that as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today I have 2 bills to introduce. Today, along with my colleagues, Council Members Allen, Nadeau, Bonds, and Silverman, I am introducing the Sense of the Council urging reassessment of the relationship with Wells Fargo Resolution of 2017.